It appears that starting after spring break that the university is going to online classes. The previous class, I think they said the university has said 3 weeks, maybe?
2 weeks after.
2 weeks after. So until April 3rd.
Like next Monday after.
Okay. So I still, for some reason, do not have that email. So I'm just going to assume that the first 2 weeks after spring break are going to be online classes. What I plan to do is use Zoom to give short lectures because we're in the part of the course now where we were already doing things more as activities. So I will basically at 12:40 start up a Zoom session. Myself have not looked at Zoom yet, so I'm going to have to figure out how to use it. You can go to the OIT help pages to figure out how to use Zoom if you've not used it before. I've used it a couple times, but not in the last year, so I'm going to have to refresh myself too. From what I understand, it's possible to have an interactive session so people can ask questions. Have to figure that out. I believe what I have to do is post a link before class starts, so I will do that on Piazza. Piazza will be our main communication. So if you haven't yet signed up for Piazza, now's the time to do it because that's where a lot of our interaction is now going to be. Okay, so before class, I will post a link. Class will probably start more like 5 minutes late so that everyone can get on, right? Because I have a class right before this one, so I may have to juggle a little bit. I might not be able to post a second link, for example, until right before it. I don't know if I can post a link, say, 24 hours in advance, or if it has to be, right then and there. So I will find all this out, and I will post a detailed explanation to Piazza. So Matt has not really been seeing you, so I'm not going to have Matt be holding office hours. You can email him with questions about the homework grades. We'll figure out something with the database projects, but if you have questions, email him, okay? Ankush, because he is holding office hours, I'm going to try to have him hold his office hours via Zoom. I will also hold my office hours via Zoom at the times that are set. So on Tuesdays from 3:30 to 4:30 and on Thursdays from 2 to 3, I will have office hours on Zoom. So you can get a hold of me that way. I hope to do the same thing with Ankush. So that's how office hours will be. Ankush will still have online office hours. Hopefully, Matt will not. Homework assignments continue as before. Same due dates, same requirements. You can still work with a partner on it. Believe me, if you're not comfortable working physically together, there are screen sharing apps out there that will allow you to share a screen so you can still work remotely. But if this changes your plans and you want to work alone, that's fine too. We don't have any exams coming up, so we don't have to address that at this point. You'll continue to do your pre-class and after-class activities as scheduled. So all deadlines are still in place. You'll still continue to do everything pre-class and post-class as before. I'll videotape the Zoom sections so that you can review them online. That's about it. Yes, questions?
What project one, we should just continue it like it's still due?
Yes.
No change?
Yep. Still do with no change. There's no reason to change it. Okay. Should you get sick with the coronavirus, please let me know and we can arrange for you to have an extension. Okay. So a lot of it at this point is fly by wire, as they say. we're going to have to figure out a lot as we go along. Yes.
You set up the same Zoom ID for classes, so
Can I do what?
you set up like a fixed ID for Zoom room, so we can join anytime, even before class.
Maybe. That's what I'm saying is there is a way to set up a fixed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there is.
Then that's what I'll try to do is I'll try to set up a fixed. But, and I assume, so I'm not a Zoom user yet. I assume then at any time I enter the room, you all can enter the room on that link too. Is that the
It's
case?
just anytime. It's
Anytime.
Okay.
In that case, the classes will start at 12:40. If I can post a fixed link to the room, then the classes will start at 12:40.
You can still make an ID so that you can get it like a password.
Okay. Very good.
Are you still planning on taking attendance?
I won't take okay. The other thing, I won't take attendance after today because it's
That would be
yeah, it'd be annoying, and it's just. I mean, it's going. I'll still be available to help you online after I let you go, but it's going to be a lot more awkward to do it that way. Today, I actually have some specific exercises for you all to do that will help you with the project. So I expect you to attend today and not leave when I finish lecturing. And so other questions, first of all. Okay, like I said, make sure you subscribe to Piazza if you have not done so, because that's where I will be posting stuff. Okay, not on Canvas. Piazza is where the discussion board will be. That's where you can find the Zoom ID when I figure it out. Okay, so today there is some advanced CSS stuff that you're going to be doing. And I'm going to give a quick talk about an intro to PHP. But to give you an idea of what I'm going to have you do for most of this class is you may remember that for the project you have a login page. I have an HTML file that I've already set up. I'm going to make you do the CSS for this today so that you can get started on your second web project. And you also have to have a header, a sidebar for navigation, and a main window. I'm going to have you do a flex layout and a grid layout that creates these two. So again, get you started on what will be your second homework assignment, which is giving me a bit of HTML. Okay? So you're going to be doing that in about 15 or 20 minutes once I get through giving you a brief talk on PHP. What I will say about the CSS for today, it was about layout. I'm not particularly concerned for this course about you're dealing with, well, I want you to do it for the exam. What I care about are the grid and flex layouts, okay? This positioning element stuff, you need to be familiar with it. I don't recommend you use this stuff. Absolute positioning is generally frowned upon. You normally can use the box model with padding or flex layouts and grid layouts to get what you want, okay? I'm not going to penalize you on the web project for using absolute positioning to tweak things, just telling you that you shouldn't really need it. And then special effects, they're nice. I'm not going to test you on it, okay? I expect you to do the challenge activities, but I'm not going to test you on it. Same thing, animation, I'm not going to test you on it. I expect you to do the challenge activities. You might, cute, on the web project, when someone saves something, use a little animation to, for example, pop up something that says saved successfully or saved unsuccessfully and then makes it go away after a couple seconds. That would be kind of nice. styling forms is important. In fact, you're going to be doing that today. So basically, my exercises today cover 5.1, 5.2, and 5.6. Okay, I don't care about SAS. I don't care about the example-styled restaurant reviews. So what I care about on an exam is 5.1, 5.2, and 5.6. Okay? I know that I said table layouts are fine. I still am good with table layouts. The grid layout is meant to be the CSS answer for table layouts. Okay, so that, and it's actually pretty powerful. So if you want to use a table, that's fine. Grid layout is good too. And in fact, today's exercise, you have to use grid layout. So, any questions? I think you can figure out how to use the Flexbox and the grid layout. A lot of it is trial and error. Okay? I'm certainly here to help, but trial and error is the best way to learn how to use them. With PHP, so I do want to just give a quick 10 or 15 minute talk on PHP, which I will do now. And then I will turn you loose on the 3 exercises that you have for today. Okay. So, let me make sure this comes up. PHP originally stood for personal homepage. It's changed now. But I will just tell you the reason it's called PHP is that at the beginning it stood for personal homepage. And the problem was that HTML content was too static. They wanted some way to do things like add animations or be able to get information from a server such as stock quotes or sports scores or news updates, things that would update periodically. Okay, HTML is bad for that. So the developer of PHP, basically a PHP file can be an HTML page, but you're allowed to put code islands into a PHP page that makes it do computations and display the results of those computations. So I can just create a hello world.php page, and it could just be regular HTML. So say I'm going to do this in Emacs so that I can display it. So you can just create, it's a .php extension, but I could just say h1 hello world, h1 h2 by Brad van der Zanden. And we'll center it. And I can display it. Of course, HTML is not going to be happy to display it. Shoot. Okay. So we will display it. Ah, come on. So if you type the URL into a web browser and the name of the file, which is hello world.php, it displays. It's HTML. So you can type a .php, the name of a .php script, into your browser and it will appear. Now, how do we get this to work with your project? This is an important question. So I am going to copy this to the university. And you all have a web home directory. Have you seen that before? If not, write it down. Okay, web home. Okay, so now I'm at the university and type in your net ID. Now, when you do this, you're already in the web home directory. Type web.eecs.utk.edu/tilde your net ID. You're already in the web home directory. Now you just type the name of the file. Hello world.php. Now, what could go wrong? Your permissions could be wrong. You need to have world read permission on the file or it won't work. Let me show you that. Okay, mine automatically goes with, if I cd to web home and I do an ls on my HTML, there's going to be a whole ton of them, but here is hello, wait, where is hello world.php? Come on. That's why. You'll see that there's read permission on hello world.php. Okay, I changed that so that there is not permission. Okay, there's no permission. Oh, come on. Don't cache. Did I change hello world? Hello world. How long is it going to take for this thing? Pardon?
Try it on a different browser.
Yeah, okay. Can you all get it? Let's see. Web.eecs.utk, B Vander Z. Why? It doesn't have read permission anymore. Not on Chrome, because that can't be. If Chrome is accessing, that would be amazing. Can Chrome? Boy, I don't want to kill the cache. Okay. I have another thing. Move hello world to h.php. Now let's give it a try. Nothing. So, what happened? First of all, it's not even telling you why. Our lab staff has set up the PHP permissions to give the minimum possible information to hackers. So, the first thing is, if you have an error in your PHP program, it will not show up. You'll just blank screen because the lab staff is trying to minimize the amount of information a hacker can get. One way hackers attack websites is through trial and error. And if you give them helpful error messages, that's bad. So if anything goes wrong with your PHP, like the failure to get permissions, you get nothing potentially. But at any rate, that's the important thing. If I change mode to 0644, h.php, give it a moment, there we go. Emily, was that your question or?
Well, I was going to say that we're working with red home stuff in Orbit 2. Dr. Wong told us that, or Preston told us, that in order for any of our files to properly load, we need to chmod all of them to 755. But I think that may give a few permissions that it doesn't need, but it's just a quick fix to make sure that'll work.
So it should execute, a PHP file should execute even without execute permission, but
I mean, I'm not sure. All I know is that
okay, here's my recommendation. I'm very wary about giving execute permission. The reason is it allows a hacker execute permission on your file. If you can make it work without giving execute permission, please do so. Only give write permission. If that doesn't work and it works to give execute permission, do it. But believe me, the web staff or the lab staff is very wary about this stuff, okay? So if possible, avoid giving execute permission to your files. Okay, especially because later you're going to be going into your SQL files, into your databases. So if the hacker can guess your database password, they can break into your SQL files. So be very careful. Okay. The other thing is it's fine to make directories in web homes. So for example, I can say make dir, I already have a PHP directory, so I can move h.php to my PHP directory. And now, again, you start at web home as the root directory. If I type the name of the directory in h.php, it works. Okay? We good with that? Okay. So, having done that, I'm going to revert now back to doing it on my personal computer, just because it's easier. So now I'm going to add a PHP code island. So the way you add a PHP code island is with the less than sign, a question mark, and PHP. Now I'm going to write some code, echo. I could say print too, but I'm going to say echo. My first, actually I'm going to say in boldface, I'm going to say paragraph, boldface, my first PHP program. So I'm echoing that out. And I terminate it with a question mark greater than sign. And I now do that in my browser. And it messed up slightly. My first PHP program, but I clearly did something at the end of it that was not good. What did I do that was not good? That's interesting. Why is it? Okay. Well, I'm baffled. Okay. Fortunately, you can run this from the command line. So, if you're having problems with your PHP program, like I am right now, you can run it from the command line using PHP. Okay, so I can see it prints out the HTML page that's created. So what happens is PHP executes, it generates an HTML page. That HTML page is sent to the browser and the browser renders it. I'll show you that in a moment. But first of all, we can see that it actually is printing out properly. So I don't see why I'm getting, so if I just run, okay, now I'm going to put a new line even though this is inconsequential. New lines don't matter in PHP on an HTML page because HTML ignores it. I can prove that to you by saying, here's my second line. It will be honored here. In fact, I'll put a second new line character in. So here it's honored, right? It looks nice. But if I reload this thing, whoops, it's not honored here. Okay, my first PHP program, I'm going to get rid of this paragraph because that's what's causing it all to. Notice it ignored the new line character. In fact, the new line character showed up. So HTML doesn't give a flip about your new line characters. If you want a new line character, does anyone know what creates a new line? Break, BR. So if I really needed a new line, BR would do the trick. And for some reason, that really eludes me right now and is annoying the living daylights out of me, is why ending that code block, why I'm getting a, it should be ending with the new line character. This is really bizarre. Let me copy this to okay, now let's try loading that. Wow. Okay, so you see it's correct. I have no idea why my browser is messing it up. Okay, so when I print it out, it worked perfectly. Not here on Hydra, there. So as I said, I ran it on my machine, which you can do to figure out if something has a syntax error. So just a second, I'm going to introduce a syntax error in a moment, but it worked fine. Why it was bombing on my browser, I don't know. But if you're having trouble, I'm going to introduce now a PHP error. So I'm going to go and I'm going to introduce deliberately a syntax error. Okay, so there's a missing quote, right? That's a syntax error. Nothing. But if I run it from the command line, it tells me PHP syntax error, unexpected end of file, blah, blah, blah on line 9. So you get a problem, run it from the command line. Okay, we'll be a little more clever. Let's write a for loop for $. So variables start with $, $i less than 10, $i plus plus. I am going to start with an ordered list. So notice outside the code block, I start with an ordered list. After the code block, I end it with an ordered list. Inside of it, I'm going to echo out a line item. And I'm going to use what's called variable interpolation. So notice the $i is in the quotes. And it interpolates the value of $i into there. So it's actually going to be, I'm going to put a space because there really should be a space. So it's going to print out, should print out a bulleted list that goes from 0 to 10. So that's what's very nice about PHP is you can create a web page that is going to be displayed. And again, if you have any doubt about what's being generated, run it at the command line, and it will show you the HTML that is being generated. Okay? So eventually what you're going to be doing is you're going to get form data, which we haven't dealt with yet. But form data comes in via two arrays, the $get and the $post arrays. You can get form data. So here's the deal. This is different. Where is PHP normally going to get its input? Not from standard in. It's going to get it from a web form. So in fact, you're going to have to get used to not reading your input from standard in or from a file. Web programming is different. You will be reading your input from a form, which will generally come in via a, as I said, $get or $post array. We will get to that. Don't worry. There's another lecture on that. But all I'm saying is while you can, in fact, read from standard in using PHP, I'm not going to tell you how because it's really unimportant. Okay, you're going to get your input from a form. You're going to do some processing on that stuff from the form. You're going to generate an output page, which you'll then be sent back. So basically, what happens is that we start and we have either an HTML or a .php page that gets served. So here we are on the client. We have either a .php or a .html. It doesn't really matter. They hit the submit button on some form. It sends form data to the server. Okay, on the server, some PHP script boots up. It does some computation. With the form data and generates a new HTML page. This is served back to the client, which then displays it. So all output now goes not to standard out, but back to the browser. And all input comes from forms rather than from standard in. You're going to have to get used to that, which means, as I showed here, notice I had no new line characters. It didn't matter because the output is expressed in terms of HTML. And as I already showed you, HTML ignores your new line characters. Well, not quite. It prints them out. It's almost like putting it back in your face that I don't deal with new line characters. So any new line characters you put in are just going to show up in your output. Not really what you want. Okay? So that's the basics of PHP. Questions about that? Okay. So again, the big thing is you can put HTML onto a PHP page and it will be sent back verbatim. It's the static part. Then you can have code islands that do computations, and the output of that, which is either echo or print. Echo allows multiple arguments. Print only gives one argument. That's why you see echo so much. And anything in a code island that you print will also appear in the final document. Just make sure that you output appropriate HTML formatting, because HTML formatting is what the browser uses. Okay? Questions? Okay, in that case, I want you to do your CSS go to my lecture page, and you'll see for 312 under in-class activities 3 JPEGs. Okay, flex.jpg, grid.jpg, login.jpg. Just a sec. Let me add the HTML files so you can get to them easily. If you let's see. And make sure that works. There we go. Okay, it doesn't work. That's the problem. Okay, so if you log in, okay, there's two things you can do. One thing, you can click on My HTML. And in your browser, I use Firefox, but somewhere on Chrome, there's developer tools. You can go and look at the page source. And you can copy and paste the page source. Or you can log into the system and cd to B Vander Z CS465 lectures, CSS advanced, and there are 3 files named flex.html, grid.html, and login.html that give you all the HTML that you need for my assignment. At the top, what I want you to do is add a head statement with style commands that will style your web page so it matches the 3 web pages that you see in those screenshots. Just make it approximately like that. I'm not giving you precise things about it's 10 pixels wide. Just eyeball it and get it to be somewhat like what I did. Okay, and on the grid one, okay, I wanted to show you debugging because in fact when I did my grid first time it bombed, so I added borders. So I thought, hey, you should see how I debug. That's what I did. I put red borders around the header, I put a dotted blue border around the nav, and I put a dashed black border around the main so that I could see why it was messing up. So for the grid one, please go and put in borders so that you can see how debugging works. So get going and feel free to work with a partner on this. Yes?
Actually, I have a question about accessing it.
It should be, are they not? Yeah, it should be B Vander Z on Hydra. Maybe it's.
No, I'm accessing like my web page.
Okay, just a sec.
Yeah.
First of all, can you all get access to these 3 files?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. I'm going to have you get access that way. I think it's easier than going through page source. So just log in, because you have to get onto Hydra anyhow to go to web home to make this work. Okay, make sure that you also have web home with execute privileges. So web home, that directory does need world execute privilege. Okay, any directory does need execute privilege in order for our server to CD into it.